Yo, it's your boy Mike K. Smith. We're back. How y'all feeling? How y'all feeling? Now, we got some news that just came out. Remember, hoop is hoop always on this side. But we got some hoop news that came out when it comes to Caitlin Clark, when it comes to Indiana Fever. And I think the $1 million question is Caitlin Clark really going to return or not? I know people are tired of talking about it, but we keep getting these sound bites from Stephanie White saying that's the plan, that's the plan, that's the plan. But the season is almost over with. The Indiana Fever right now are in the seventh seed, I believe. So I don't know what the agenda is for the Indiana Fever and the organization when it comes to Caitlin Clark. Maybe they're waiting to see if they're going to get a higher playoffs seeding, because we know right now in the WNBA is that like it's anybody's league. We're witnessing the Las Vegas Aces going on an incredible run where they went from down and out to now a top 2-3 seed in the WNBA right now, potentially before we talk about this record-wise. So I guess that's why the Indiana Fever are kind of waiting around. But for it's Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, I think the big question is, should she return or should she not return? Should she come back and to help the Indiana Fever with a chance in the playoffs? But I think my skepticism is when we talk about Caitlin Clark and when we talk about her coming back, it has to be before the playoffs start. You just don't drop a player right in the playoffs when we know that the game is more physical, the game slows down. She's going to have to get up to speed. You want her to get her rhythm, you want her to get her pace and her wind up under her, and also get in game shape conditioning before you just say we're going to put you in the playoffs when we know that the speed and the tempo and the game and the physicality goes from here to here. That's playoff basketball. So we're looking at Caitlin Clark and we're hearing Stephanie White. We're hearing all these sound bites come out of like, that's the plan, that's the plan, that's the plan. But I don't necessarily know if that really is the plan because it's only 1 week of the season left. Today is Tuesday. Next week, the Indiana Fever's last regular season game is Tuesday. They have 4 games left in the regular season. So do you want Caitlin Clark to come back in the playoffs, or do you want Caitlin Clark to come back in the regular season? I would think that if she's going to return, I would say it has to be sometime before the last 2 games of the regular season for her to have a chance to play in the playoffs. I don't believe that the Indiana Fever are going to be silly enough to just drop her in the playoffs and say she's returning to playoffs without her playing any type of regular season basketball, without her playing, I say that it's only 4 games left, without her getting her win, getting in game shape, without her getting back into the flow. You just don't drop a player off in the playoffs and say, even if you're putting on her on a minutes restriction, you want her to get in some type of rhythm. You want her to get in some type of game shape heading into the playoffs, because we know the physicality and the referees already ain't calling fouls now in the regular season. We know they swallow that whistle in all the sports, but especially in basketball, that whistle gets very, very tight. They stop calling those regular season calls and they call playoff calls, and that whistle gets very, very shorted in the playoffs. So I don't know if that's a great idea if you are the Indiana Fever organization, because and we're not getting any clarity. I think that's the issue that most Fever fans are having. I think that's the issue that most WNBA fans are having, because right now we're seeing that Caitlin Clark has been cleared for contact. It hasn't been cleared for on-court contact right now. We keep talking about, is she going to play? Is she going to come back? So it says that second-year guard did participate in full court 5-on-0 work during shoot-around in Phoenix on Tuesday morning. Fever coach Stephanie White told reporters that Caitlin Clark has been limited to shooting drills and individual work. Shooting drills and individual work doesn't seem like she's ready to be on the court. Now, I know things can change in a heartbeat, but the fact of the matter is she's yet to scrimmage. She's yet to play any type of drills where we're having people guard her and defend her. That doesn't seem like a player that's going to come back this year. She's been limited playing in just 13 games this season as she's dealt with several injuries in her left quad, her left groin, her right groin. So that brings up my biggest issue with the possibility of her returning is because she suffered 3 lower leg injuries, which we know affects her jumping ability, affects her shot, affects her lift, affects her shooting from distance. We know she's been playing hurt. And people are going to talk about, yes, prior to her playing hurt, she was in a shooting slump and things of that nature. But we know when you are a shooter, when you are a guard, when you have change of direction, especially your quad and your ankles and your movement going from left to right and not just north to south, we know that has an impact. Your lower leg, having lower leg injuries has an impact on how you dictate pace, change the direction, speed, and also just going for handles, crossing over left to right, and your overall movement. Basketball is a very twitchy game. That's why I stopped playing. It's because you can't do some of the same things you can do when you get a little older. So that's what we're talking about with Caitlin Clark, and even she also suffered a bone bruise in her left ankle. So I just don't see it. I just don't see it. She hasn't played in any contact. She hasn't been in any type of drills that's involving contact. So what do you do if you're the Indiana Fever? What do you do if you are the organization? Because I know Caitlin Clark wants to return. So let's go over it. The pros, why Caitlin Clark should come back. The WNBA season right now is a season where I feel like anybody can win this year's championship due to it's been a lot of injuries. Minnesota Lynx, the Festa College been in and out. Breanna Stewart from New York Liberty's been in and out. I still think they are the 2 favorites to make it back to the WNBA finals. We've seen the Las Vegas Aces go from a team fighting to be in the playoffs to now a top 3 team in the WNBA. That's how they've been playing. I still am not a firm believer on of the Las Vegas Aces. I still will say that even regarding their being on this winning streak and things of that nature, I still don't believe that they're going to do anything in the playoffs because I don't believe in Jewel Lloyd and I don't believe in her being consistent and being that player that we've grown accustomed to seeing. She just has been a very, very down year for Jewel Lloyd. So I don't trust her being the number 3rd best player on the Las Vegas Aces winning matters the most. She has shown me nothing this regular season for me to believe in her. So that's when we talk about momentum builder, have her come back, play a couple regular season games, and then have Caitlin Clark play in the playoffs. You never know what that can do for the chemistry, your organization, your teammates. You can really recharge that Indiana Fever and bring momentum and help them go out and make a deep playoff run. So it helps overall that team confidence. Caitlin Clark's presence alone is going to make teams have to defend and game plan differently while she's on the basketball court. Fan energy. We know that when Caitlin Clark plays, we know that the Indiana Fever have the best home court advantage in the WNBA. We know what it would do to that fan base. We know what it would do to the WNBA. It's also going to make the WNBA way more exciting if Caitlin Clark plays. So those are the pros, I would say. And also Caitlin Clark, from a fan perspective, we don't know if Caitlin Clark doesn't play this season. We may not see Caitlin Clark till 2027 season because I expect, and most analysts and most basketball people expect a lockout with the WNBA. Cons for Caitlin Clark and the reason why she shouldn't play. Once again, I already mentioned it, lower leg injuries. They're very tricky. She's had 3 lower leg injuries, and God forbid, knock on wood, we don't want Caitlin Clark to be in a situation where she comes back and she gets bumped or she gets fouled. And we know how teams and defenses like to play Caitlin Clark. We know it's a level of physicality that most players don't necessarily face in the WNBA. We know Caitlin Clark gets seen every defense of scheme, blitz, double, traps. We know she gets every type of coverage possible because she is a all-time generator, and we know how phenomenal her game is when we talk about being able to generate and beat a team without even scoring the ball. She could beat a team by just passing the ball. But Forrest's lower leg injuries are very, very tricky and very, very serious. She's had 3 lower leg injuries. And God forbid, we don't want to risk her long-term health by allowing her to come back in the playoffs, not getting enough reps in, and just coming in the playoffs when the game is going to be more physical. The referees aren't going to be calling certain fouls, and for her not to be in game shape. It takes a while to get into game shape, especially when Caitlin Clark has missed, 65% of the regular season. She's missed anywhere between, I think, 25 to 27 games. So I don't know if that makes sense, especially since she hasn't even been practicing. She's still not doing contact drills, no scrimmaging, no drills with opposing defender, no gearing her up for real game action, whether that's regular season or postseason. Also, it's only 4 games left in the regular season. Once again, it's a week left. If she's not playing this week, or she's not playing the final 2 games of the regular season, there's no way in hell I would risk putting Caitlin Clark back on the basketball court. So I believe you got to think big picture rather than short term. But maybe if you're the Indiana Fever, your organization, and if Caitlin Clark is fully healthy, it's hard to tell a player who believes that she should be out there and wants to go out and compete, especially at the highest level, especially in the playoffs, which she feels like her and the Indiana Fever possibly can go out and make a deep playoff run and maybe even a title run. You never know with how injuries happen in the playoffs. Anything is up for grabs. Once again, we're seeing teams that most people thought were going to really be automatic locks in this playoffs. We're seeing question marks for a lot of the top teams. And it wouldn't surprise me who wins or goes to the finals this year in the WNBA. I think health is going to be a major factor in the WNBA playoffs. And once again, as a fan, we may not see Caitlin Clark to the 2027 season because of potential lockout. But as an Indiana Fever fan, as a fan of basketball, as a fan of the WNBA, you don't want to risk her health for selfishness. That's just me. That's just what I'm saying. So Jack, she owns it to her team, in my opinion. They fought hard through all the injuries. And you got people like that that's going to say things like that. And Jack, I respect that opinion because at the end of the day, her team has fought really hard. Her team has played without her. Her team has gotten themselves in a position to possibly go out and reach the playoffs and then go on and make a deep run, because right now the WNBA, for seeding and standing, any team can beat any team. And that's what we like for, is that parity in the WNBA. But the Indiana Fevers have lost a lot of players. Sophia Cunningham is out. McDonald is out. Colson is out. So they lost a lot of players. So the question is, it hasn't been a great season for the Indiana Fever for its injuries. And then we're talking about your franchise player and the low-key, maybe not even low-key, face of the WNBA when we talk about future of this franchise. I'm sorry, when we talk about the future of the league, that's Caitlin Clark, one of the brightest stars, the box office, where everybody locks in, whether she's and has commentary on Caitlin Clark, whether she's playing or not. We're talking about this player. Do you risk her going off and playing in the playoffs? The competitor in me, being a former basketball player, playing at the college level, my senior season, I came back from a serious ankle injury. It was the first time I ever tweaked my ankle. It was a grade 2 ankle sprain. I missed 8 games, and they were telling me I was going to be out for the entire season, but it was my senior year in college. I rehabbed so hard. I was training so hard, icing so hard, and I was able to come back with 5 games left in the regular season, gear up, and help my team go into our conference tournament, even though we ended up losing. But I'm glad that I did it. And it took me after the season for me to truly recover, but it was worth me going out and helping my team get further than they would have been if I didn't play. And that's the mindset for a lot of players. And that's why it's going to be very hard and very challenging, very difficult for if Caitlin Clark is 85 to 90% healthy and she wants to play and she feels like she can help her team go off and make a deep time playoff run or possibly win a championship this year based on whatever happens in the playoffs, because it's no guarantees in the playoffs. We've seen that in the NBA this year. If anybody said prior to the season that the NBA Finals would have been Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers, people would say you're crazy, especially for the Indiana Pacers part, and even for OKC as well. So that's because you never know. And I know a lot of times people think about when we talk about long term, and I've spoken on long term and for Caitlin Clark, a lot of times people are talking about the future, but you got to live your life. Worry about your goals, worry about your aspirations, worry about your future, but also you got to live in the present, because we don't know when the opportunity is going to present to win a championship. We don't know that. So that's how players think. And that's the mindset that I'm sure Caitlin Clark has. So I understand what Jack is saying. Shout out to Jack hopping in the chat. Ask all your questions in the chat. But for Caitlin Clark, it's going to be interesting. It's really going to be interesting. What are the Indiana Fever going to do? We have 4 games left in the regular season. She has missed, I think, between 25 to 27 games this year. She's missed 65% of the games, the last 13 games. She's only played, 13 games this season. It's been a horrific sophomore campaign for Caitlin Clark, for its injuries, for its being in and out of the lineup, and for the Indiana Fever overall as a team. This wasn't a year that they expected. But if they can get healthy in the right time and Caitlin Clark is healthy, then I don't know. What do you do? What do you do? That's the question. That's the question. But I'm tired of. I wish we just have an answer, because every time Stephanie White talks, it's always like, that's the plan. That's the plan. Nobody seems like they knows anything, but it's 4 games left in the regular season. If she doesn't play in these 4, if she doesn't play in 2 out of these next 4 games in the regular season, at least, I'm saying it's a wrap. So tonight she plays the Mercury, then the Sky on Friday, then Sunday she plays the Mystics, and then the Fever play the Minnesota Lynx on Tuesday. If she's not back this week, she is not going to return, most likely, and that's just probably a fact. If she doesn't play, if Caitlin Clark does not play this week, she's not going to return for the 2025 season, because you're not going to place her in one regular season game where we know she has to get in game shape. We know she has to find her rhythm. We know that she has to get on the court and actually have those moments of dealing with contact, change of direction, seeing what her body can do, because it's also a mental game as well. You just don't get back on the court being out for a significant amount of time and not having the mental aspect as well. What is that first fall going to feel like? What is that first bump going to feel like? These are all things that Caitlin Clark has to go through as a player to mentally know if she's really healthy or not. People just think like it's a difference between, you can be fully healthy. They can clear you. But when you get out on the basketball court in that game speed and you got defenders on you, you got to change the direction. You got to dictate pace. You got to move laterally. You got to slide your feet playing defense. These are all things. You may get fouled. You got to go, somebody may take a hard charge on you or hit you on the leg or coming off a screen. You may run up and have your leg bump against the screener. So these are all things that you have to go through to prepare your body to see if your body can take it. Because once you get over that mental aspect, then we'll see if you're actually 100% healthy. Because it's a mental aspect and it's an actual physical aspect, and it's combining both once you get on the basketball court to see if you can go off and be fully healthy like we've seen this earlier this season. So that's what we got to see from Caitlin Clark. That's what we got to see from Caitlin Clark. And once again, I know people are going to say long term over short term, but that component is that component we're going to have to see if she's going to be able to come back. And that doesn't make sense for me personally to drop her off in the playoffs. If she does not play this week, there's 3 games Indiana Fever play this week. Tonight, Friday, Sunday. If she does not play this week, she's not returning for the 2025 season. Hopefully, she's returning Sunday. But right now, because you technically still got a whole week. Right now, she's doing 5-0 drills. She's yet to do any contact drills, which is concerning if you keep talking about she's going to return, or that's the hope. Because if she's not returning this week, then it's probably no hope, because would you put Caitlin Clark in a playoff game, even in limited minutes, when we know the physicality is going to be what it is due to the playoffs, and referees have a shorter whistle, and physicality, you get away with more aggressive defense, the holding, the grabbing, as well as Caitlin Clark not being in game speed or having the reps under her wing to say, like, okay, I feel comfortable. We don't want to put Caitlin Clark in a situation where the first time she's getting fouled is in a playoff game, or first time she's getting bumped is in a playoff game. That doesn't make any sense. So everybody wants to know. We're gonna see, and it's crazy. It's crazy, because who would have thought that this would be the Caitlin Clark season? But injuries happens all the time. When we talk about some of the greatest basketball players of all time, we seen them have to have adversity. So, and as a competitor, you want to play. And I understand Caitlin Clark is going to want to play. And once again, this is not the first time we've seen all-time great players have to go through adversity. Adversity builds greatness at times. So I'm not going to sit up and say, if I'm Caitlin Clark as a competitor, as a former basketball player, I told you my story. I came back my senior season in college because I wanted to compete. I wanted to play. I wanted to help my team, which was able to me come back, and we were able to go off and get the number 1 seed in our conference tournament. And that had something to do with the leading scorer, returning the best player on the team, myself, not to toot my own horn or anything, returning to play. That helped propel my team. So I can't sit up and look at Caitlin Clark any differently for feeling that type of way and wanting to come back and play for the Indiana Fever to help her team succeed and go on a deep playoff run, even though she's had a lot of injuries, even though it is a long-term concern, even though we don't want her to get another serious injury on top of the small injuries she's had, because 3 lower leg body injuries is very, very concerning. But once again, Michael Jordan, his sophomore season in the NBA, he went through adversity. He suffered, I think it was a bone. He has like a bone injury in his foot just 3 games into the regular season. A career-threatening injury, actually, Michael Jordan, that kept him out for, I think it was like 64 games. And he played in the last 15 games of the regular season, and then he went off to play in the playoffs. And then we all know the story about the Black Jesus game where he dropped 63 points, and that's what Larry Bird said. It was like Black Jesus on the basketball court. Now, that's why I say the importance of playing low regular season games, why I believe Caitlin Clark has to play this week to come back. You just don't put her in the playoffs. If she doesn't play this week, she's not probably going to return, because you want to gear up, get in game speed, and have her go out and be successful. But it's your boy, Mark K. Smith. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Remember, hoop is hoop on this side. Always remember, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean out to your own understanding, and always acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Proverbs 3:5. Always leave you guys with that. I appreciate y'all, man. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to get back into consistent. The great lock-in is here. And I'm gone, man. Peace.